loves. Welcome to Get the Pen. My name is Janine, folks. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome to Get the Pen. And if you have watched before, welcome back. Thank you for coming back. And thank you for coming if it's the first time. I hope you have liked, shared, subscribe, all of that good stuff. And also don't forget to visit www.getthepen.net for more information about what Get the Pen is all about. So I'm going to get right into it. I'm going to try to be brief today. I want to highlight a book and an author. So I'm kind of replacing the shout outs with book highlights, author highlights. And these are authors that I have worked with the Get the Pen label. The Train Ride. This is a book written by one of my good friends, my good girlfriend, Jo Harper. Check it out. It is fiction about the train ride. I love her imagination. I love this story that she created. I love fiction. People think that, fiction is just a made up, I don't want to use the word nonsense, but just made up stuff that's not important. But these things are important. Fiction is important because even though the story might be fictitious, the principles are real and true. You can learn more in a fiction book about like human behavior and life lessons in a fiction book because I feel like the authors, when they write a fiction book, they can be more free to be honest and to go absolutely wild when they tell their story because it's not real, right? So I can go crazy and say whatever I want to say. However, when you're telling a true story, you're a little bit careful because they know it's real and they know it's you, and you're trying to be a little discreet and not tell all your business. So you might hold back with some things when it's the true stories. So with fiction, you can just, like I said, go wild and tell it all. Be very transparent, probably more transparent than a biography or a nonfiction book. But some people are courageous enough to go wild when they're telling the truth. So either way, there is a lot to be learned from fiction novels, fiction books. I'm sure they were inspired maybe by some events that occurred, but just in a different setting, different scenarios to illustrate a point that we may have learned or experienced in life, or maybe it was downloaded in a dream. I know people who have dreams about scenarios and scenes with vivid detail that they wake up with knowing and remembering these dreams, and then they write about them in stories. So not only are real life experiences a muse, things can be downloaded to you in a dream, and you can take that and put it in a book and elaborate on the story. You can even embellish a little bit just to be a little extra, a little more dramatic, to make it juicy, spicy, or whatever, to make it more interesting. In your fiction book, you have just this freedom to go wild in fiction, and there are great principles to be learned. After all, did Jesus not use parables to teach, to make points, to illustrate points? Parables, those stories were not necessarily true stories. He was using those stories to make a point. And this is how fiction stories can be used, whether it's fantasy, science fiction, urban fiction, anything that's classified as fiction. Those are stories that we can use as teaching tools. So don't shy away from the fiction, and don't shy away from the train ride. Check it out. And in fact, I'm working on a fiction for the first time, a fiction book. I've always written like devotional type stories, but I have two fiction books in my brain. One is science fiction, the other is just kind of a drama fiction inspired by my grandmother's life. She's my muse. She never really told me the story of her life, so I'm using my imagination of what I think may have, could have happened in her life, in her mother and father's life, and I'm putting it into a story because there was so much she did not know, but based on the times and the era that she lived in and the circumstances that I'm aware of, I'm using that to construct a fictitious story that could be true or maybe not. I don't know, but I'm going to just open myself up to receive images and stories that I'm going to put into words and put it in a book to share with people, and then you will be able to see what I see, or maybe you'll see it in a different way, in your own way, from your own perspective, based on the words that I share. So that's a little get the pen moment about fiction, and also encouraging you to write some fiction. Just be creative, see what comes to your mind. If you just sit there with a blank sheet of paper or a blank screen and you just start typing whatever comes to you, create these characters, give them personalities, give them situations that they have to work through. And voila, you've got some fiction. And all the while, in doing this, you are illustrating life lessons and teaching through the tool of parables or or stories. Um, my topic today, I made this up. So if you start hearing people use this phrase, you heard it here first, and I want my cut. If I could trademark it or whatever. But this phrase or term that I came up with was is called vibrational privilege. Vibrational privilege. And let me explain. Privilege, that's when people kind of get preferential treatment based on who they are or based on a characteristic they may have. Now, I know you're familiar with things like white privilege, which is a real thing, which really means like if you're white, you get certain advantages for being white. Certain things are easier for you because you have a white privilege. Now, privilege can work for you or it can sometimes even work against you. uh, Most black people may feel at a disadvantage because they don't have white privilege for certain things, but in certain arenas, there's a black privilege. In some situations, some circumstances, in some places, it's an advantage to be black. So, just depending on where you are, what you're doing, who you're with, you could have white privilege, you could have black privilege, you could even have privilege based on a sorority or fraternity that you belong to, or being a member of a certain club or group, where you know how they say membership has its privileges. When you belong to a certain group, it can be a privilege depending on where you are. And if the higher ups or the powers that be are of the same group, they may show you preferential treatment based on you being a member of their own group. We all do it, all groups do it. People can say they're unbiased or even really try to be unbiased, but everybody has their biases and prejudices. It's just human nature. I'm not saying if it's right or wrong, I'm just stating reality. And we all try to be as unbiased as we possibly can. And sometimes it's not even a matter of white or black privilege, it could be intellectual privilege. If you're smart, you might get chosen or preferred or have certain advantages just because you are smart, or just because you are short, or just because you are tall. You'll have certain privileges for being a part of that group, whether it's the tall group, the short group. It could be the light skin group, the dark skin group. There's so many different classifications that people can fall into that may cause them to have an advantage or a disadvantage. You feel me? So now, relating back to my topic, vibrational privilege, I believe that is a thing because for me, I don't really say if I experience or I haven't really experienced like white or light or black privilege, not really, but the privilege that I generally experience is what I would consider vibrational experience. And I think in the church world, they would probably refer to it as favor. And you know how they say favor ain't fair and all that. I don't agree with that because first of all, God is not a respecter of persons. God is not going to look at you and think you're better than that person. So God's gonna be more favorable to you and give you more blessings than that person just because he likes you. Like God likes us all equally. He loves us all equally, and he sees us all as equal, no matter what our background is, no matter what our color is. Like God doesn't see all that. He sees our hearts. So to say that God favors certain people, I just don't think that's correct. I don't think God has favorites. He doesn't play favorites. I don't, maybe I could be wrong, but that's just my opinion. Um, but I do believe that when you vibrate on a certain level, favor is drawn to you. And I feel like I have had vibrational favor all my life. I didn't call it that. I didn't know what it was, but I oftentimes would find myself feeling like I got some preferential treatment, and it wasn't because of my color. It wasn't because of my height or my weight. It was just because of my being, because of my energy. People would kind of like me or gravitate to me, and they didn't even really know why. It's something about you. It's something about you that makes me want to help you or makes me want to uh, be extra kind to you or give you a little extra something or something like that. And again, just like any privilege, it could work for you or against you, because sometimes my vibration made people just not like me. They don't know why, but I don't like her. So everything that can work for you can also just as well work against you. So it just depends on what arena or sphere you're in at that moment. Now, with regard to vibration, what is vibration? What is that? And I know a lot of people associate that with like new agey type uh, thoughts or whatever new agey kind of stuff, because now it's kind of a trendy thing to say, or a trendy term to use is vibration. I got, vibes, good vibes or bad vibes and things like that. But vibrations come from energy. And if your energy is good, you attract good things and you attract favor into your life. So it's not about favor being fair. Favor just ends up coming to you when you vibrate high, when you operate in positivity, when you have just this great energy, great work ethic. You are approachable, friendly, warm, kind. People just like you or gravitate to you because you make them feel happier or you make them feel a sense of peace. Now, I want to read something to you real quick, and this is just an excerpt from a coloring book that I'm working on. It's a spinoff of the devotional book She Shall Be. So I took pieces of She Shall Be and put them into a coloring book. So next to each coloring page, I have like some quotes or inspirational words. So I want to read one of the pages to you. And I think this relates to vibration. So if you're thinking, well, I need to raise my vibration so that I can have some of this vibrational favor. So they don't care about what color I am. They don't care if I'm in a sorority or not. They don't care if I'm tall or short or slim. They don't care if I'm a part of this organization or that organization. But what they do care about, what they are drawn to, is my energy. They like me for some reason. I make them feel, I don't know, I make them feel warm. I make them feel comforted. I make them feel valued, things like that. And that will draw people and make people want to choose you for a blessing, for a job, for um, an assignment, for a contract, things that will bless your life. So I think there is a way to raise your vibration, positivity for sure, a positive outlook. And I know sometimes we have bad days, and I know sometimes bad things happen to us that get us in like a funk and get you mad, and it's like, it's hard to vibrate high when you're upset. But when your highs kind of outweigh, when my good days outweigh my bad days, Keep your vibration high as often as you can. So when you do have a bad day, it does not put you in a vibrational deficit. Okay. So one way to raise your vibration, this is what I'm going to share with you now. This is inspired by the Proverbs 31 woman that everybody tries to emulate and want to be like. Proverbs 31:18. There's a verse there that says she perceives that her merchandise is good. And that's self-confidence. That's confidence in what you have to offer. If you don't feel like your what you have to offer is good, how are you going to vibrate high? How are you going to be desirable or have people want you on their team or want to do business with you or want to bring you into their fold? Nobody wants to bring people that will hinder them or drag them down. But if you're elevated and you're going to keep the team lifted, or you got momentum and you're not dragging people back because you're progressive and moving forward and doing great things, people are drawn to that. And you have to know that. You have to know that that's in you. You have to perceive that your merchandise is good, okay? You got to feel like you're good. Know your worth, your value, and all of that. So this speaks to self-perception, how you see yourself in the work of your hands. Your products and your services are a reflection of who you are. Your work ethic, what you put into your craft, the time and energy that you put into it. It speaks volumes about your character. That'll take you up. That's how you vibrate high. Find your niche. Find what you're great at. Notice how it flows out of you. Assess yourself. Assess your work. Practice. People don't like to practice, and some people think they get to a certain level to where they don't have to even practice anymore. Practice is forever. That's maintenance. And even when you get to a certain level, if you don't want to fall back and you want to maintain, you have to practice. Ask any roller skater, ask any athlete. They practice on a regular basis. You don't get to a point where you're like, I'm good and I don't have to practice anymore. Yes, you do. Study. I don't care how smart you are, how much you know, how much education you have. You still need to study on a regular basis. Study something new. Learn something new. Okay? Hone your skills. Keep them honed. You can always learn more. As soon as you think you know everything there is to know, just forget it. Because the successful people I know they gotta stay hungry, stay thirsty, and keep learning, hungry for knowledge, for growth, for advancement. Now, the better you get, the more comfortable you get, and the more your confidence will increase. You're living, learning, and growing. You're happy. You're appreciative of the blessings in your life. You're counting what is going well in your life. You're focused on what is going great in your life and not dwelling on what went wrong. This is how you vibrate higher. You love people, even the unlovable. You don't even have to be in their face or in their area, but just respect humanity, the good and the bad. They're people, and if they hurt people, it's because they're hurting. If you see them like that, rather than just flat out evil, and maybe some people are flat out evil, and just avoid them and try to not have the negative thoughts associated with that. Just steer clear, keep yourself safe and away from anything that could bring you any form of harm. But just continue to operate in a loving, caring space, a fair space where you treat people well, you are friendly, you're nice. And nice doesn't mean you just let people do whatever. It just means you're operating from a loving place, a loving, disciplined, focused place. And you're pleasant, and people, they will just like you because you're pleasant and you're not hard to work with and you're not difficult. That's the difference between vibrating high and low. And you'll figure out how vibration works and how you can, stay on the high vibration. And it doesn't mean being happy all the time. It just means having a good heart. When your heart is good, people know. People can tell when you have a good heart. And you might try to fake it, not you, but some people try to fake it sometimes and pretend, and love bomb people and try to pretend like they're cool. Those masks don't stay on, they fall off. So it has to be real, it has to be genuine and sincere. But when you vibrate high, that brings you an advantage, that brings you privilege. So make sure you walk in love, walk in humility, walk in confidence, be authentic, be genuine, be good hearted. Check your heart, examine your heart. Even though I know we can never truly know our heart, but when we're sincerely doing the best that we can and we're seeking God and asking Him to just purify us and make us well, make us whole, heal us emotionally, spiritually, physically, and that helps us to vibrate in love, you will undoubtedly walk in vibrational privilege. It's inevitable. You can't help it. Vibrate high. Keep watching, keep checking back with me, and you'll know what I mean. Feel free to comment, like, share. I will see you next week. Thank you for this Get the Pen moment, for sharing with me. Have a good one.